Hola, mein Freunds. I am here in Pontevedra. I didn't get to do a video last night, so I just wanted to kind of do a little walk and talk so I can show you guys this. I guess I'll talk about day 11, but right now in this moment I would be starting day 12. I am going to be walking from Pontevedra to Caldas de Reis. I can't say that for the life of me, but this is such a beautiful little old town. I'm in my flip-flops right now and it's 39 degrees, so I'm gonna try to make this video as efficient as possible because I'm kind of cold. I had I guess just such a special day yesterday. You know, I think some people think I'm weird especially the young ones, because they're like, why are you not staying in the albergue? And I'm like, you know, this is where I'm staying, this is my hotel. I'm like, my soul has suffered so much in the last year that all I want is a good night of sleep while I'm on my vacation. And so, you know, I booked this hotel. It's great. If you stay in Pontevedra, I really recommend it. It was about 35 euro. And for Europeans, that's really expensive. Honestly, it is. And for an American, you know, especially coming from a place like Seattle, where you can't even stay in the travel lodge for less than $100 these days, you know, it is quite affordable. So I feel bad that I'm not kind of experiencing this, but honestly, like last night, I fell asleep at 9:45 and then I kind of slept straight through 7 a.m. and man, do I feel like gold. I honestly don't think I could do this walk as clearly mentally if I did not have enough sleep. So let's see, this church over here is fantastic. But yeah, yesterday was one of these funny days, you know. We're gonna switch around and go over here. Yesterday was one of these days, it's like I just had a mix of moments with people and without. And you know, I had a little blessing from a guy in Redondola, and then I ran into Danny, my crazy Spanish friend from Madrid, and he and I were talking, you know, about, we talk about so much. And you know, the funny thing is he gave me a nice compliment. He's like, the reason why I like you is because you're proud of where you come from. You know, there's obviously things that aren't that great about, you know, certain things of your country, but you hope that things improve. And I think the one thing that I gravitate towards a lot, or at least you meet a lot of the same similar minds in these moments, is that people have like balanced viewpoints. And he and I had a lot of these conversations about, you know, people are just very black and white. They don't see things from both sides of the story, or they jump from the same side, or jump onto one side of the fence. And he was saying, you know, he loves being Spanish, and if he were to put a Spanish flag up at his home, he would be called a fascist. It's like, he goes, what the hell? He goes, I live in Spain. What flag do I put up? So it's just kind of funny because these political, dramatic problems are the plague of the Western world right now, basically. It is a mind plague that is happening, you know, making people feel guilty. And I don't know, if I look at this from a spiritual lens, I don't have guilt, because I can only have guilt for my actions, thoughts, and my behaviors. I can't control my own government. I can do what I can by voting and certain things like that, but you know, it's like every country and culture has its own problems, and the same problems that exists in America exists in every single country. I've seen it. I'm talking to people about it, and it's kind of funny because I know, like, during our presidential election, you know, so many people are like, I'm going to Canada, and it's like, you can't run away from your problems. I experienced that at 22. I had like such a rotten shithead attitude about America, and I was like, Americans don't travel and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I went to Australia and I had the worst job situation I've ever experienced. And my mother even told me this. She's like, you can't run, oh, that's really pretty with the sunrise. She's like, you can't run away from these, you know, problems. And she was absolutely right. And that stuff followed me abroad, and I very much learned my lessons. So you can't run away from these things. You know, you can run to the beaches of Mexico and all this shit, but it's all there. And the reality is, a lot of people are just opportunists nowadays. So if you do go running to the beach in Mexico, you know, all these white Westerners will end up kicking out the locals, making life way more expensive for the people of the Riviera Maya. So anyways, this church overhead here, let's see if we can get around. This is where I had, man, this sunrise is amazing. I don't think the phone can really pick it up too much. This church over here is where I got to have a little experience yesterday by going behind the altarpiece of the Virgin of the Peregrina, La Virgen de Peregrina. God, my Spanish is so bad. It's so funny, I tell people I studied Spanish for 7 years and then they're like, what? Because it's horrible. So here it is. That was my third blessing of the day, was being able to come here and have a little moment with a local as he tied the ribbon around my hand and asked me if I wanted to take a picture with the altarpiece, and I said, of course, why not? So this is Pontevedra. I'm going to show you one more little street. I really like this city. I wish I had more time here. Old Perino and Redondola were fine. Actually in Redondola, you know, I can talk about it on this video, but it's like people get so sensitive nowadays because I believe you cannot judge history with a modern day point of view. Like, everything that happened in human history happened for some reason. I don't know why, but it led us to the point where we are today. But at the church, so like a lot of people, you talk about this pilgrimage and they're like, it's a medieval pilgrimage, which is very much true, but this did happen a lot because of the fighting between the Catholics and the Moors in Spain. When the Catholics tried to take over their country again from the Moorish rule, that happened for like 700 or 800 years. This cafe is great. If you do come to Pontevedra, you should come here. And let's see, let's go down this road back to the hotel. And so the church in Spain, I did a history tour with Danny from Madrid, and the local guy, you know, was telling us about the church. And there's always, you know, artistic creations and symbolism and all sorts of historical paintings and statues and landmarks and such. And that church, at the top, there was St. James on a horse, and he said, do you see the two people underneath? And I said, yes. And he said those two people are Muslims, and it's for the fact that, you know, that symbolism was for the Catholics overtaking the Muslims and pushing them back out, you know, of the land because they took it over from the Spaniards hundreds of years prior. And so, you know, I kind of laughed because I was like, this is the thing. It's like history repeats itself. Life is a full-on mix of patterns. You know, it's like, hopefully we all learn from history and we can all get along, but the reality is, like, we kind of don't. Like, this is the thing, like, humanism, especially once you have spiritual texts involved, sometimes it just doesn't work. Like, I don't know why people can't just admit that. It hasn't worked in the past, and it may or may not work in the future. You have people, you know, right now who are taking their texts literally and, you know, blowing things up and such, and obviously that's not conducive to Western civilization, nor would any of us want to live in that type of environment of fear. But, you know, it's like you kind of put humans in the same category as animals, and you realize that when you mix hyenas and lions and zebras together all in one little arena, they're gonna fight. And that's kind of the same thing today. And I think that's the one thing I've been like gravitating toward These buildings are amazing. I've been gravitating toward, you know, wanting to sleep in the more rural section because it's peaceful, it's quiet, and people aren't fighting. And you come back here and, you know, you see signs about hating capitalism and we're a democracy, and you just get back to the city life, which is back to reality of people fighting against each other, about politics, religion, coexisting, whatever, all of that stuff. So anyways, I'm back at this hotel and I am gonna end this video. Buen dias, and see you later. Bye.